Hello everyone, I'm so happy you're here today to practice your English with me. In this lesson, we will learn how to describe your weekend in simple, natural English. Talking about your weekend is a fun way to share your experiences and connect with friends. You will hear key sentences and repeat them in different ways so you can feel confident when you speak. First, we'll look at basic structures that help you tell others what you did. Then, we will explore some useful words for talking about activities, feelings, and times. By the end of this chapter, you will understand how to start a conversation about your weekend and how to add simple details. Remember, practice is the best way to learn. Even if you make small mistakes, each time you try, you get better. In this chapter, I'll use clear examples and repeat important points so you remember them. When you tell someone about your weekend, you usually start with simple verbs like went, did, or had. For example, you can say, I went to the park, or I had a great time. Later in our lesson, we'll see more ways to say the same idea. This repetition will help you learn naturally and comfortably. Next, we'll move into the main part, where I will teach you useful phrases, step by step. You will learn how to talk about when things happened, how you felt, and what you enjoyed the most. We'll look at sentences like, on Saturday morning, I visited my friend. And then we'll say it a different way. Saturday morning was fun because I visited my friend. By changing the order and using synonyms, you will see many ways to share the same idea. Before we finish this chapter, let's pause for a moment. Think about your last weekend. What did you do? Maybe you relaxed at home, went shopping, or watched a movie. Hold those thoughts in your mind, because in the next chapter, you'll use them to build your own sentences. You'll hear me describe my weekend, and then you'll try with your own activities. This way, the lesson stays personal and practical. Now that you have these basic ideas, let's move on to the main part. Here, you will learn the building blocks for telling your weekend story. Practice each sentence, repeat after me, and feel free to pause and say the sentences out loud. This is your time to speak and improve. Let's go. In the main part, we build on our basic structures and learn how to describe your weekend clearly. You already know the simple past verbs went, did, and had. Now, let's add time words to tell listeners when things happened. For example, you can say, on Saturday morning, I went to the park. Notice that you start with the time phrase on Saturday morning, and then use the verb went. If we change the order, it becomes I went to the park on Saturday morning. Both sentences mean the same thing. Practice both versions so you feel free to choose the order that sounds best to you. Next, we learn sequence words to connect ideas smoothly. Words like first, then, after that, and finally help us show the order of events. For instance, first I cooked breakfast. Then I did the laundry. After that, I read a book. You can also say, I cooked breakfast first. I did the laundry next. I read a book last. By changing the position of sequence words, you repeat the same meaning in different ways. This repetition helps you remember the patterns naturally. Now, let's practice talking about feelings or opinions. Use simple adjectives such as nice, fun, tiring, or relaxing. You can say, it was relaxing to read a book, or reading a book was relaxing. Again, try both orders. You might also say, I felt really happy when I saw my friend, or seeing my friend made me really happy. These small changes let you speak more flexibly and keep your listener interested. We also need useful connectors to add extra details. Words like because, so, and but let you explain reasons or contrasts. For example, I went for a walk because the weather was beautiful, or it was raining, so I stayed home. You can also combine ideas. I stayed home, but I still had a good time. Practice saying I stayed home but had a good time, and although it rained, I enjoyed my weekend. Both express contrast, and repeating these patterns helps you learn. Let's talk about talking about places and people. Use phrases like with my friend, at the cafe, or in the evening. For instance, in the evening, I had dinner with my family at home. You can change it. I had dinner with my family at home in the evening. Or, my family and I had dinner at home in the evening. Each version keeps the same meaning, but uses a different structure. By trying all three, you strengthen your skills. Time expressions can also include parts of the day: morning, afternoon, and evening. You might say, on Sunday afternoon, I watched a movie, or I watched a movie on Sunday afternoon. To add more detail, include exact times. At 3 o'clock, I watched a movie. Then repeat, I watched a movie at 3 o'clock. Practice both to feel comfortable. It is natural to give more information by adding small phrases like for 2 hours, with my sister, or in the park. For example, I walked in the park for 2 hours with my sister. You can rearrange, my sister and I walked in the park for 2 hours, or for 2 hours, my sister and I walked in the park. Repeating these helps you see where you can move phrases without losing meaning. Finally, in this chapter, let's practice negative forms and questions. You can say, I didn't go out on Sunday, or on Sunday, I didn't go out. For questions, use did you? For example, did you visit your friend on Saturday? Or on Saturday, did you visit your friend? Practice both question orders. This helps you speak more naturally when chatting. In the next examples chapter, we will hear these structures in mini stories and model dialogues. You'll listen to short paragraphs describing real weekends, then repeat and change them with your own details. This will tie together everything from time phrases to connectors, feelings to small details. Keep practicing each pattern out loud, and soon you will describe your weekend easily and confidently. Let's move on to examples and bring all these pieces together. Examples. In these examples, you will hear short, natural paragraphs that use the structures and phrases from the main part. Listen to each sentence. Notice how time words, sequence words, feelings, and small details fit together. And then try repeating or changing the examples with your own weekend activities. On Saturday morning, I visited a local market. I walked through the stalls first, and I looked at fresh fruits and vegetables. Then I bought some bread and cheese. After that, I went home to make breakfast. I felt happy because the air was cool and the market was busy with friendly people. I cooked eggs and toast, and I enjoyed my meal slowly. Saturday morning in the market was relaxing and fun. I could also say, I went to the local market on Saturday morning. First, I explored the stalls. Then, I chose bread and cheese. After that, I returned home and made breakfast. I really enjoyed it because the air was cool and the market felt lively. I took my time eating eggs and toast, and I felt peaceful. Notice how changing the order or words still tells the same story. Practice both versions out loud. On Sunday afternoon, I spent 2 hours in the park with my friend. We talked and laughed while we walked along the path. We sat on a bench under a big tree and drank cold lemonade because the day was warm. It was a lovely time. Walking in the park for 2 hours with my friend made me feel calm and happy. Sunday afternoon with a friend was a perfect way to relax. You can also say, I walked in the park on Sunday afternoon for 2 hours. My friend and I talked and laughed as we strolled down the path. We stopped under a large tree and drank lemonade since it was a warm day. Spending time with my friend in the park was lovely and peaceful. Try both ways, and then change any detail to match your own weekend. Imagine another story. On Saturday evening, I watched a new movie at home. First, I picked a comedy because I wanted to feel cheerful. Then I made popcorn. After that, I sat on the sofa with my brother and pressed play. The movie was funny, so we laughed a lot. Watching that comedy together made our evening very enjoyable. Listen to how because, so, and sequence words join sentences smoothly. Repeat with different order. I watched a new comedy movie at home on Saturday evening. Since I wanted to feel cheerful, I picked a comedy first. Then I made popcorn. My brother and I sat on the sofa and pressed play. We laughed a lot because the movie was funny. That evening was very enjoyable. Practice both versions, and then try telling your own movie story. Here is a mini dialogue you can imagine between friends. Did you do anything fun this weekend? Yes, I had a great time. On Sunday morning, I went hiking in the hills. First, I packed my bag with water and snacks. Then I started walking up the trail. After that, I reached the top and saw a beautiful view. It was tiring, but worth it. Hiking made me feel energetic and proud. Now change it. I went hiking in the hills on Sunday morning. First, I packed water and snacks. Then I started my hike. I reached the top afterward and saw an amazing view. Although it was tiring, it felt worthwhile and energizing. I felt proud when I finished the trail. Use these examples to craft your own dialogue. Swap hiking for cycling, swimming, or any activity you like. Replace Sunday morning with Saturday afternoon or evening to practice different time frames. Finally, let's look at a contrast example with but and although. I planned to clean my house on Saturday, but I decided to visit my cousin instead. Cleaning was not exciting, so I chose family time. Although the house stayed messy longer, I felt happy spending time with my cousin. Or, although the house was messy, I visited my cousin instead of cleaning on Saturday. I felt happy even though I postponed my chores. By using but, so, and although, you can make your storytelling more interesting. Repeat both versions and then tell your listener what you did or chose not to do. These examples show you how to link ideas, repeat key phrases in different ways, and add small details for clarity. Try replacing my activities with yours. Maybe you cooked, read, played games, or practiced a hobby. Change the time phrases, sequence words, and connectors just as you heard. Speaking out loud will help you remember and feel confident. In the next and final conclusion chapter, we will review the most important expressions, repeat key sentences, and end with a motivational message. Keep these examples in mind and get ready to practice every day. Now you have learned many ways to describe your weekend using simple past verbs, time phrases, sequence words, feelings, and small details. You saw how to start sentences with on Saturday morning or Sunday afternoon, and how to move those phrases to the end of the sentence. You practiced linking ideas with first, then, after that, and finally, and you repeated the same story in different orders to build flexibility. You also used connectors like because, so, but, and although to explain reasons or contrasts, and you tried both positive and negative forms. By changing the word order and using synonyms, you strengthened your skills without losing clarity. Remember the example of visiting the market, where you said, I walked through the stalls first, then I bought some bread, and then you rephrased it as, first I explored the stalls, then I chose bread. You did the same with feelings, saying, it was relaxing to read a book, and reading a book was relaxing. These small shifts help you speak more naturally and sound more fluent. Keep practicing those shifts until they feel effortless. Think back to the mini dialogue about hiking. You asked, did you do anything fun this weekend? And replied, I went hiking in the hills on Sunday morning, and although it was tiring, I felt proud. You then reversed the order to, although it was tiring, I felt proud when I finished hiking. This shows how you can use different structures to express the same idea in fresh ways. Finally, remember the contrast example with cleaning versus visiting your cousin. I planned to clean my house on Saturday, but I decided to visit my cousin instead, and although the house stayed messy, spending time with my cousin made me happy. By practicing both forms, You learn to use but and although confidently. All of these patterns, simple past verbs, time expressions, sequence words, feelings, details, connectors, negatives, and questions are your tools for telling your own weekend story. Use them to share your experiences with friends, write a short journal entry, or record a voice message. The more you repeat these sentences in different ways, the more natural they will sound. Keep these examples close and try substituting your own activities, cooking, playing, studying, or relaxing. You've done great work today. Keep speaking, keep listening, and practice every day.